Peace, peace, peace. I'm on here going go live briefly, man. Had somebody ask me, I'm gonna read it. Right? Because somebody asked me, send me a video. He said, "Are you bold enough to put this on your show and discuss it?" Absolutely. Hold up 1 second. Hello, Carlos Park speaking. That's the school. But yeah, I discuss anything. I ain't ducking no wreck. So anybody want to come on? I'm about to go into a discussion about this Charlie Kirk video. And let me pull it up and share it. Share screen. All right, where is it at? It's here. Maybe here. No, it's here. No, it is here. Okay. Let me see. All right, let's see. Entire screen. Okay, let me go in here and that's not it. All right, let me figure out the right way to share this thing. Open it. Oh, it's already open. I got it open here. This is where I have it at. All right, I know where to go. I know what to do now. Share screen. Boom. Boom. Here we go. Share. Okay, let me make this larger. All right, we're gonna play this first, and then I go over it. Hold up. Why is it not? Hold up.
Moral truths that are transcendent of time.
Start this over.
You said it was based on scripture, and you believe that there are moral, objective, universal truths.
Yes, there are.
So
murder is wrong today, and murder was wrong 2,000 years ago.
Right. Okay. Fair. That's not same sex, but fair. I see your point. But
there are moral truths that are transcendent of time, place, and matter.
Okay, but so just to clarify, you believe that this is in the Bible. This is laid out in the Bible that man shall not sleep with man, and so therefore
it's also repeated throughout the New Testament as well. In the book of Matthew, Jesus reaffirms the biblical standard for marriage.
Okay, so I'm going to make two very, very quick points. So the first, so if we look at the Old Testament in isolation, just to start off with, as an example. So let's look at Exodus 35:2, which suggests that if you work on the Sabbath, you should be put to death. If you look at Leviticus 11:7. It suggests that if you have pork, you should be put to death. Let me finish, I'll be done. If you plant two crops side by side, you should be stoned by your entire village. If you wear a suit, which you are wearing now, that contains two different fibers intertwined into the same jacket, you should be burned at the stake by your own mother. Now, following that rationale, in Leviticus 18:22, and it states that man shall not sleep with man, why aren't we burning ourselves at the stake as well? Why aren't we stoning ourselves to death? You said it was based on.
All right, so yeah, I didn't.
Take y'all niggas nowhere. That's why I take y'all niggas everywhere. Taj Mahal. What the hell? Your boy say what the hell?
Boom. All right, get that off of there. All right, so anyway, that's not the one that I wanted to discuss. So I think he shared a different one to me. I don't know how that one came up, but let's break that down, right? Because the young man, I think that was in Oxford, England somewhere, he made a good point, right? You can't pick and choose what you want to adopt out of scripture, right? And that's what a lot of Christians do. They pick certain scriptures, and that's what they pay attention to, but they don't pay attention to other scriptures, which is what the young man was making point of, right? Because sometimes it is crazy to even to think about some of the things they say. They say if you plant two different crops side by side, you should be burned at the stake. If you wear a suit with two different fibers interwoven, you should be stoned to death by your own mother, right? So you can't just go by certain things and then ignore what you choose to ignore, and that's unfortunately what happens a lot of time in scripture. So they adopt what they want to adopt, and they dispel anything that they don't want to adopt, and that's what what's his name, King Arthur, did when he had the Bible translated into his version of the Bible. He got rid of the portions that he didn't want to deal with and address, and then he used what he wanted to use to gain control over people's minds, and it worked, right? But that's not the one I wanted to go over. Let me see if I can find the one that he sent to me. Where is it at? It's in my email, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can find, because he sent me a different one. I don't know how that one came up. That's not the one. That's not the one. But I guess that is the one he wants me to address. That's what's showing up. Yeah, well, I guess that's the one he wanted me to touch on. So anyway, somebody wanted me to go over that. Okay, let me get this off of here. Why is it still here? Boom. All right, okay. Yeah, somebody wanted me to address that particular thing, but the one that I saw first, and I tried to post that to my is this one. So I don't know. Let me see if I can get it first. And hold up.
Important question to ask
I
me
gotta go back. Why is it this one not showing? Because this,
and more important to ask me is
I
Charlie.
gotta pause it. Pause. It's muting and
Important
not
question to ask me
pausing.
is Charlie. Do you believe that black pilots can be qualified? Of
This
course,
is the one I want to
any
discuss.
individual can be
Hold up.
qualified. I want a hiring quota and program that only cares
Hold
about
up.
qualification,
Try this
not
again.
skin color. And thirdly, I would say, why does United Airlines care so much about the color of the pilots?
All right, let me go see if I did it right this time. I don't know how I got that last one. This is the one I want to discuss. It's talking about DEI and black pilots, which is one of the more popular opinions he's had, right? And that's the one we want to unpack. Is this the right one? Let me see. Not now. Boom. That's it. So now let me go back over here. Share my screen because I have it now. Share screen. And again, if anybody wants to come on, they're welcome to. All right. Share. Now let me make this larger. Now, mind you, I know this dude, Javon, cat from Durham. We never see eye to eye. I've kind of bumped heads on a few things he says because he says some crazy stuff. So I'm not surprised he's the one who's sharing this video. He really hates black people. I don't know what it is. He wasn't always like that. He kind of like went through something and changed. I don't know. We used to go to chill at the same barbershop over in Durham, 40 Below Barbershop. And Javon just started having, getting social media crazy and said something on social media one time I didn't agree with, and I let him know I didn't agree with what he was saying because he say some good stuff, like, but we don't agree on everything. We men, you know what I'm saying? Like we come from different worlds, just different, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna play this thing that Javon wanted to talk about, right? For some reason. Can I make this larger? All right. Why is it not? Allow me to play. Mute screen audio. No. I'm trying to play it. Connection is unstable. I don't know why. All right. Why is it's not letting me play it? It's not letting me play it. Try it again. Let me try it again. It didn't. It's giving me problems. Share, present, or invite. Present. Share screen. Go back in the Instagram. Go in it. Go to share. Now let me go start it over here then. Maybe that's what it is. Boom.
A more important question to ask me is, Charlie, do you believe that black pilots can be qualified? Of course, any individual can be qualified. I want a hiring quota and program that only cares about qualification, not skin color. And thirdly, I would say, why does United Airlines care so much about the color of the pilots that are flying them?
See, always wrong when you don't have context. Watch this.
Play it again.
A more important question to ask me is, Charlie, do you believe that black pilots can be qualified? Of course, any individual can be qualified. I want a hiring quota and program that only cares about qualification, not skin color. And thirdly, I would say, why does United Airlines care so much about the color of the pilots that are flying them?
See, always wrong when you don't have context.
All right. So now I'm gonna address this goofy dude. So he didn't play the whole clip, right? So what happened was someone addressed the whole issue of DEI because Charlie Kirk said something about I'm not gonna quote it, but he said not feeling safe on a plane if it had a black pilot, right? Because of the airline's DEI practices, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion practice, saying that because they participate in the DEI program or whatever, right? Or they hire according to the DEI standards, right? That they're hiring inferior pilots. So he wouldn't want to fly because they're hiring inferior pilots. And that was, his way of justifying it. And this is my response to that. First of all, you have to educate yourself. Anyone who agrees with him, right? This is for anybody who agrees with him, right? DEI does not promote hiring people who are unqualified. It promotes hiring people with equal qualifications, but from a different race. Why is that important, right? Because the people doing the hiring are 80% more likely to hire someone from their race, someone who looks like them. So if you have Europeans who are 60-70% of the the people in the hiring positions, right? Business ownership, right? In the United States, just simply based, not just off of mathematics, not just based on the fact that they have a majority presence in the country, but it's based on the fact that they've had a head start in establishing businesses, right? And establishing wealth. So they've had a head start in doing a lot of the things that put them in a position to be hiring. So if they have been, systematically hiring people not of color, DEI came about so that it evens the playing ground. Like, listen, y'all not going to keep overlooking black people who have the same qualifications as white people, right? Simply because you're white and you want to hire another white person. So that allows a person to be, biased, right? So DEI, it seems like it's what they'll say is, oh, it's biased towards black people. No, it removed the bias practices that we've been suffering from for eons in this country. That's what it was all about. It was about leveling the playing field, right? It was to remove bias. And you were saying what Charlie Kirk and a lot of these conservative Christians are saying, right, is that the DEI practice made it biased towards people of color. Absolutely not. It made it equal. It made it where this is what DEI did. It incentivized business owners for hiring Black and brown people. It incentivized them, meaning they get something out of it, right? It's a tax issue, right? So for which like it promote it. If you incentivize somebody, you're more likely to get something out of them that you want out of them, right? So if you want them to hire based off of skill and not color, you got to incentivize them. So this is what they did. They incentivized business owners. So then the people who were not getting the jobs, like, because it's not, let's be, it's still the job force is still primarily made up of Europeans. You know what I'm saying? Especially in higher paying positions. It's still overwhelmingly majority of Europeans, right? All it did was gave more Black and brown employers an opportunity at companies there where they probably wouldn't have got accepted. Places where they probably wouldn't have got in, where so they got they got in certain in certain business they only hire people from Harvard, or let's say somebody from Princeton, right? So they basically are, they don't care how qualified you are. You didn't go to Harvard. Oh, we only hire from Harvard. What's the how many Black and brown people go to Harvard in relation to European, right? So that right there is an opportunity to discriminate against people of color. That is why DEI was in place. So when Charlie Kirk made that statement about a pilot, he unfairly implied that a Black pilot is inferior to a white pilot because they were hired due to DEI practices, which is in turn, he's saying that DEI causes people to hire inferior employees, which is a absolute lie. That's a lie. That needs to be checked at the door. So anybody who's saying, oh, he's just saying that he wants it to be nah, don't buy that. So coming from my foundation, I'm taught not to accept anything on face value, right? You always do your research and find out, if there's any truth to it. And with that, there isn't, and a lot of times, he met his match in debates. Like in that particular one, the first one I talked about, he put the mic down because he was told something by that young man that he had to think to respond to. And really, if you have a closed mind, you're already looking for an argument instead of accepting, somebody just dropped a jewel on you. So he was at a point where he thought he knew everything and that nobody could educate him. So at that right there, he was educated by a young college kid. That young college kid educated him because he's like, okay, this is what you're using to justify your thought. Why am I froze? I froze for a minute. So using that same formula that you used, to justify your thought process, put one on with some Black people. It doesn't matter if I put one on with some Black people. It doesn't matter, right? So when he is, it's almost like, he's looking for an argument when he goes out. He's looking for a debate. I'm the same way. I love a debate. I love a good debate because you can grow from it, right? But it's just not that he's not looking for growth. He's not looking for growth. I have debates and arguments with people all the time, and I learn from them. Sometimes, but I'm not just looking to argue. I'm looking to see how you think. I want to see how you think because how you think might make sense, right? And I'm listening. sometimes I run into people who just don't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? So you know, with Charlie Kirk, yeah, sometimes he makes sense, right? But then when I really listen to what he's saying, I'm like, oh, you just made a mistake right there. I catch everything. I don't miss a beat, right? So when I'm listening to how he's describing things and his reasoning. So when you're in opposition to someone, right, you always use their reasoning to rebut their argument. So that young man, he broke down Charlie Kirk's reasoning for coming up with the statement that he made. So now if I use your reasoning to show you that you're wrong, you know, like what can you say? Like, this is your reasoning, and that's what he did. And what did Charlie Kirk do? He put the mic down. He put the mic down and stood there. Like, you make a good point. He made a good point because he used his thought process to make the point, right? If we think differently, I got to use how you think to make your point. So I did that with someone, and he said, well, you're a Democrat. You don't say. I'm not. First of all, let me be clear. I'm not political. I'm not a Democrat or Republican, right? I don't like either of them. You know what I'm saying? I would much rather I would prefer to vote conservative, not conservative. What's that party? That third party? I don't know, but that's where we need to go. What is that third party? I can't remember that. And then why is it that some candidates aren't even on the ballot? Like, you can run, but if you don't have a certain amount of something, you can't get on the ballot. Meaning, I can write your name in, but your name not gonna be on the ballot. All right. You said just like passing the bar exam. This is from John Lyons. You have to pass federal licensing exam in order to get your commercial pilot license. The licensing commission doesn't see your skin color. All they want to know is if you pass the exam. And all airlines want to know if you're licensed. Exactly. So you know, most people won't do that much research. Most people don't use logic when they, you know, making an assertion, right? So when that man said that, you know, I mean, people just accepted that as fact. You feel what I'm saying? Like, people, like, they just accepted that as fact. Like, he said that, you know, he wouldn't feel safe with the black pilot, right? Because the black pilot was probably hired through DEI practices. And what was he suggesting? He was suggesting that DEI practices permit them to hire inferior employees, which is an absolute lie. You know, but he made the suggestion. So he made people jump on the bandwagon like Javon, right? They just automatically go for what's on the surface. You know, they're not digging deep enough, right? And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get into that, right? Because, like I say, he and I, we don't agree on anything. I'm an intellectual, right? And he thinks he is, but, you know, he's not. He's an educator, right? Was an educator. And what's the difference? Let me break that down, right? Because people, like, there's a difference between schooling, right, and intellect, right? Just because you go to school doesn't make you an intellectual, right? There are a lot of people who go to school and, you know, can't think past go, right? An intellectual is a person who has their own philosophy, right? So there's a saying, knowing does not make one known. No, hold up. Knowledge does not make one knowing. I'm gonna find it. I gotta find that quote. I keep certain quotes. There are those. All right, this is my favorite quote. Boom. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Alexander Dumas. Learning does not make one learned. There are those who have knowledge and those who have understanding. The first requires memory, and the second, philosophy. Again, that's by Alexander Dumas, right? So just because you learn, man, doesn't make you learned. A learned individual is a person who has learn through practice, through observation, through other means. They have a different way of learning, right? Learning means you were taught, right? So a person who is learning to be a teacher is taught how to be a teacher. They're taught how to teach from a curriculum. And at some point they learn how to put a curriculum together. But initially, right, you're taught everything, meaning you have what they call an instructor. An instructor tells you pretty much how to see things, how to think, right? And a lot of times what you learn from that instructor is what you adopt, right? You adopt those things. So now let's take a person who doesn't have an instructor, didn't have a teacher. Do you think that person can't learn on their own? Yes, through observation, through reading. You don't have to have someone force feeding you information. You can go retrieve information on your own. And that person is wise, right? That person is called an autodidact. Am I saying it right? I don't know. I think it's an autodidact. Autodidact or autodidact. I don't know which one. I don't know where the inflection goes, but it's an autodidact. AUTODIDACT. Didact, right? That's me. I'm an autodidact. I wasn't taught Spanish. I learned it on my own, right? I wasn't taught Yoruba. I learned it. Although I'm not fluent in Yoruba, I do speak some Yoruba. I do read Yoruba. French the same way. I read it, speak a little, and read it. But anything I learned, I didn't have a teacher, right? I didn't have an instructor, right? But I have a high IQ, which means I have high comprehension. I comprehend information that a PhD might not understand, right? So you have some people who you'll say, "Oh, he's smart. He's a doctor." Yeah, he's smart when it comes to medicines, right? Because that's what he was taught. He learned that, right? But he might fail every math quiz you put in front of him, right? He might not. He probably can't think past go. He probably couldn't find his way home without navigation. You know what I'm saying? I can't. You know what I'm saying? So everybody, that's just their particular acumen. That's something that they've learned. Attorneys, right? Attorneys are intelligent when it comes to law, when it comes to contract law, right? Realtors, intelligent when it comes to real estate. Everybody has their thing that they're strong in, but that doesn't make them super, like they're not super intelligent just because they know something that they learned. Carpenters, you know what I'm saying? Electricians, they know what they've learned. That's their acumen, right? But an intelligent person is a person who can figure out complex schemes without help. Someone who can problem solve, critical think. That's what I look at as an intelligent person who doesn't really, has their own philosophy. You have to have your own philosophy, right? And the philosophy, what the philosophers usually do, they would go study. They would go study in Africa, right? That was the Greek philosophers. In a nutshell, you can have a book, CC and not common. Oh, you can have book sense and not common sense. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. There's a lot of guys who got book sense and not common sense. So common sense, you apply logic. You don't need somebody to tell you anything. You see it for yourself, not what he said. Hold up. So Stephen Jumper said that's a clip, not what he said. That's a clip. That is a clip, and that's what he said. But what I said, I broke down what was missing from the clip. But you gonna think how you think, man. Something about these what are they, millennials, right? Let me talk about these millennials for a second. I'm supposed to be on the Zoom meeting. I gotta get on this Zoom. But these millennials, right? It's hard to teach a millennial something, right? Because they know everything already, right? It's really hard to teach somebody who know everything. And I'm like, yo, you've been on the planet like 30 years, You know what I'm saying? Like someone been on the planet like 50 years, 60 years, probably know a lot more than you, right? They probably learned a lot. So you should probably like listen to that person. You might learn something, right? But they won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I guess they learned everything like in high school, right? So they don't even know how to write in cursive, but they know everything, right? So I mean, I'll be letting them be where they at sometimes. You know, I'll try, but at some point, and I don't call it giving up. I just be like, you know what? The seed is planted. If it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like it's you know, sometimes in order for a seed to grow, the soil got to be tilled, right? You got to till the soil. So, you know, I don't know if anybody's tilled the soil or not, but I just plant seeds. I'm obligated to do so. That's what we're supposed to do, right? That's a sign of wisdom. Knowledge becomes wisdom when you share it. But anyway, man, that's the end of my Charlie Kirk dialogue. I got to go on this Zoom meeting for a minute. I think I'm gonna go in here. Yeah, I'm gonna go show my face. Peace.